it's all fun and well talk about JPEGs and prices and that, and it's good to do it. Life goes on. Like, you can't get caught up and focus just on something else. But just, yeah, remembering that there's real suffering happening.
Hello, everyone. GM. Welcome back to another episode of Overpriced JPEGs and our favorite and only recurring segment, Moment of Zen with Zeneca33. We're back to talk about what's happening in the market, in the world. There's some big world updates happening, and of course, the world of NFTs, the metaverse, etc. Zeneca, welcome back as always.
Thank you. It's good to be back. You're in a new location, as every single time we record, you're somewhere new.
I am in Puerto Rico today, which if anybody, well, actually, you won't have seen it yet. Okay. Spoiler alert, Justin Kahn is on the podcast next week, and we also recorded while I was in Puerto Rico, and calamity ensued as I tried to record here. So y'all have that to look forward to. But yes, this is true. And you're now back from Dubai. You know, the world's opening up. Crypto is international. You and I are gallivanting around the globe, meeting with Web3 people everywhere.
It's wild. It's fun.
It is wild. So speaking of the world, I don't know if there's anything in particular you want to say about this. I know I want to, of course, just say our hearts go out to people of Ukraine and people of Russia who are scared right now. I think especially in Ukraine, certainly, as the news has broken that Russia is, entering and essentially launching full-scale war, it appears, in Ukraine. Thoughts on that, Zeneca?
Yeah, this is all very fresh. I mean, it happened less than 24 hours ago. The news broke, and yeah, it's been sort of a crazy period for everyone, I guess, in the space and in the world, and trying to figure out what's happening. And there's a lot of panic. Understandably, this is a war. It's a war in the 21st century that's of a scale that we, haven't potentially quite seen. It's really scary, and I think it's flowing into the NFT and the crypto space. All, markets are taking a hit and people are panicking for all sorts of reasons. But yeah, I always just I've been trying to frame things in perspective and zoom out and really think about what matters in life. And yeah, it's all fun and well talk about JPEGs and prices and that, and it's good to do it. Life goes on. Like, you can't get caught up and focus just on something else. But just, remembering that there's real suffering happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And how fortunate we are to be in a position to spend our days worrying about the price of a Bored Ape, in the grand scheme of things. That's a tremendous privilege. So yeah, absolutely, hearts out. And there's so many, I know I have listeners of the show who are in Ukraine and Russia. And, again, just thoughts with you all. It's such a lame thing to say, but what else can you say, really? I
am noticing a lot of people and projects in the NFT space are like rallying around, trying to figure out how they can donate, where to donate to. And like, again, it's a drop in the bucket in the grand scheme of things, but it's nice to see this outpouring of support from the Web3 community to try and do something. Yeah.
If you spot good projects supporting that, and I'll take a look too, and we can drop them in the show notes before this episode goes out.
Definitely.
Just if there's
I have
places to support.
A list of a few that I have to go through later today, actually. So yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, and the other kind of, speaking of scary moments, this was specific to the Web3 world, was the OpenSea, what didn't turn out to be an OpenSea, it wasn't their fault. But it was certainly, it was connected to OpenSea and scary. And actually, Zeneca, so you were the one who first alerted me to this, your post in Zen Academy. I was in Denver, as I think a lot of people were. I was there for ETH Denver. I was at a bar. It was the NFT Now event, and yours always catch my attention. And it was like, hey, everyone, like, so sorry for the pain. I forget what you said, but like the first line caught my attention as I like looked down at my phone at the bar and was like, oh, this seems weird. And I showed it. I was one of the Bankless guys. I like showed it to him, and he was like, oh, is it something with like Zen Academy? I was like, I don't know. It seems broader than that, but who knows? And then of course, all these other pings started coming through from other Discord. So do you want to break down for us sort of what we know ultimately happened?
Yeah, I'll break through like what we thought happened and then what ultimately happened. So it was Saturday night, and then basically news started spreading like wildfire because people were having their NFTs drained from their wallets. And like a lot of really high value NFTs from a lot of people were being drained. A lot of Azukis, Bored Apes, NFT Worlds, NFTs worth tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars were all at the very same time getting sent to one wallet, and people were going on Twitter saying, my NFTs are being drained, I've been hacked. And then someone said that it was due to the OpenSea migration contract. So the OpenSea is changing their contracts, version 1 to version 2. It's going over a week period, and it's just like a change in OpenSea. So somewhere the idea came that maybe the first few people who had this happen had all migrated or something, and they identified that as a central point. Then there was a lot of panic around that. And then there was also, at a certain point, people thought the X2, Y2 marketplace had something to do with it because, again, that's a new marketplace, an airdrop people claimed, they approved assets for sale there, stuff like that. And interacting with new smart contracts is always a little bit scary and uncertain. And so that was sort of the narrative for 45 minutes to an hour, I think, as people were still digging and finding out what really happened. And for an hour, more and more people were coming out saying their assets were getting drained. They got hacked, and more and more of this was happening. As time went on, though, it sort of became more and more clear that it wasn't due to an exploit in OpenSea, it wasn't due to a bug in their contract or X2, Y2, because all of the people who had their assets stolen had signed, approved the transaction. Like a valid signature basically means that they had approved that, yes, okay, these assets can be transferred properly. And people did some more digging, and it seemed like it was a phishing attack basically. So, they clicked a malicious link, they went to a website, maybe they thought it was OpenSea, maybe they thought it was another site they were minting, didn't really look at what they were signing, didn't understand what they were signing, and then signed away their life, basically. And then there was sort of an email going around. So OpenSea sent an email to people alerting them that they were migrating their contracts and say, hey, if you want to keep your listings, you can follow this process. And someone speculated that there was a phishing email basically sent out around the same time, and people clicked on that thinking it was OpenSea. I don't think it's been confirmed, and if anything, it seems more and more likely that wasn't the point of attack. But yeah, I'm not sure that we know exactly what. So I think it was about 32 or 33 wallets in total had assets drained. I don't know if it's yet known what the central point was that connected all these wallets. Maybe it was multiple points, But it was just a really scary night in the NFT community because, I didn't know what was going on. No one really knew. We're all figuring it out and, trying to revoke access to our NFTs and move them to safe wallets and all sorts of crazy stuff. And honestly, for 10, 15 minutes, it was really a doomsday scenario in my mind. If this is actually an exploit / bug in the OpenSea contract and everyone who had used this migration, hundreds, thousands of users were getting all their NFTs. This is a real doomsday scenario. Thankfully, it wasn't that. Unfortunately, a lot of people still did have a lot of assets stolen, but it could have been worse.
Yeah. No, I obviously totally agree. I went home. I was at this NFT Now party. I was going to a CyberKongz event later, and they were sort of back to back, but I, headed back to my hotel just to revoke access to things, check that. It's scary. I was on my phone and I was like, you can't really do as much on your phone. And so I was just want to get back to the hotel, check what's going on. Definitely deeply uncomfortable. And these scams, these kind of scary moments, I feel like are happening more often as the scams seem to be getting more sophisticated. I think I mentioned to you, Jimmy and Pranksy both publicly mentioned this week that they were scammed.
Yeah.
And it was funny. I'm in a Telegram chat. I sort of had this funny order of operations where I saw Jimmy say just got scammed, it happens or something. And then saw in this Telegram chat, somebody posted hey, Pranksy and Jimmy just both got into this project. And I sort of roughly was I wonder, is there a connection there? And then a moment later, the person posted again being wait, don't mint this project. Pranksy was then posting being yeah, Jimmy and I both got scammed. So now Jimmy was no, I was just being stupid. And apparently he has COVID or something. He chalked it up to that. But the point being increasingly, sophisticated people can be scammed. There was that long thread recently who was that guy who was a victim of a very targeted attack.
Yeah.
Did you? I'm trying to remember his. Or I think it's him. Their handle.
Yeah, I don't remember their handle. Is this the one where they it went for a couple of weeks and they almost approved all of their wrapped ether and just to the wrong contract?
This was when they were working on a DAO that has something to do with space. It's so embarrassing that that's how I'm framing it, because I feel like it's actually much more sophisticated than that. But it was like, they're working on like a very niche DAO, and they became convinced that somebody who had connections to Boeing was then in their Discord, which is really appealing because they were doing, sort of sophisticated, like, what's like
social engineering,
capital expenditure, big, whatever, that has like a very niche specialty. And it was like a weeks long targeted attack against this person, successfully convincing them that these folks actually had ties to Boeing, and then also themselves working on some separate project. And they'd been like engaged in his Discord and doing graphic design work for him, like actually participating as community members. And then on the side, we're like, oh, can you stake into this contract we set up, by the way? Yeah. He was so smart, and he staked not from his hot wallet. He initially sent things to his, and then they like were pushing to have him stake it from the from his hot wallet. Yeah. And he was like, okay, like I just have to they made some excuse for it. And he was like, sort of weird, but whatever. And was like, I'll just have to read through the contracts before I do it. And that's when they got really hostile. And we're like, started, and then he was like, that's when I realized something weird was going on. But like, holy crap, I had no, if somebody had done that, like I had no chance. Like now I know I'm not getting more sophisticated, but like that was such a long con they were pulling that was so targeted. It's just, it's always a word to the wise. Be super, super
so
savvy.
Careful. One of the,
if you're getting an email.
Yeah. One of the, so a lot of people know that Discords are getting hacked left, right, and center, and people post fake announcements to fake mint sites. One of the ways that people are doing this is they will reach out to the mods of a Discord and say, hey, I'm launching this other project. Would you like to be a mod for this Discord? And then offer them, several ETH or some like lucrative payment that immediately gets them, oh yeah, okay. And it's not unrealistic for a person to sort of talk to mods from other Discords. And then somewhere in the process, they say, if you can just install this plugin or this bookmark, or like, can you bookmark this? Is some very, it seems benign, but it's not. And it basically gives them access to your entire Discord account, including if you have two-factor authorization on it. It somehow bypasses that. I have no idea how. Wow. Yeah. So you just got to be super careful.
100%. It is, I do think we'll eventually hit an equilibrium with this where, this stuff will die down, but simply because the security measures will get good enough, and as the space matures. But like for where we are right now, it's definitely, I understand newcomers' sort of apprehension. My boyfriend Zach, he's sort of new to this whole space and learning fast. And when this was all happening Saturday night, he was like, "Oh God, like like I don't know what
so
am I
scary.
Supposed to do? Like I don't understand. I'm still just like understanding how the basics here work. Like how am I supposed to? You want me to revoke what? It's a lot."
Unstoppable Domains is the #1 provider of NFT domains. With domains ending in .crypto, .x, or .nft, Unstoppable Domains lets you replace your long, complex wallet address with a human-readable address. Using Unstoppable, you can verify the ownership over your NFTs, log into Web3 apps, and join tens of thousands of people using them as their Twitter usernames. With Unstoppable Domains, you can have all of your crypto addresses registered to one single domain. So it doesn't matter where crypto payments are coming from or where they're going. By registering all of your crypto addresses to your Unstoppable domain, all of that is taken care of in the back end. Better yet, with Unstoppable Domains, you don't have to worry about gas costs or renewal fees because you own it. Buy your domain and you can show it off as your new Twitter username. So you can get your name for as low as $5 at unstoppabledomains.com. Everyone is talking about the metaverse these days, and we're all still trying to figure out what it actually is, because everyone is looking for how to get exposure to it. That is why a metaverse index fund is so important, because in such a young market, an index can give you broad exposure to all the various players who are building out all these digital worlds that will ultimately become the metaverse. And that's why you should check out the Metaverse Index from the Index Co-op. The Metaverse Index gives you simple, easy, and safe one-click exposure to the emerging open metaverse trend. The MVI Index contains some of the biggest metaverse projects out there, including Axie Infinity, Decentraland, Illuvium, and more. So join thousands of holders who have already trusted nearly $50 million to the MVI Index. And if you buy $500 of MVI on the Dharma app, you can receive $50 worth of ETH on the Polygon network. There's a link in the show notes for you to click so you can get started on your journey into the metaverse.
Well, on to, I don't know, I'll call it better news simply because it's not like abjectly dark.
Yeah.
We definitely want to get into projects that are big this week. We'll talk about Invisible Friends. You and I actually, I've talked about Mfers on here, but I don't think you and I have talked about it. NFT Worlds.
Yeah.
So we'll get to all that, which will hopefully be exciting for folks. But let's start. You've got this Mutant Serum being listed for like 4,200 ETH, or it's like, I think it's like, what is it, 426.9? It's like 420.69.
Yeah.
Again, will the space ever mature out
Never
of that?
change
Unclear.
NFTs. Never change.
Stay true to yourselves. Do you want to kind of break that down for folks and why this feels like news?
Yeah. So yesterday, I think it was, or day before. So the mutants, basically, there's 3 tiers of them: M1, M2, and M3, and they get progressively more rare. M3, I think there's only like a dozen of them, or like a very small amount, and there's like 10,000 M1s and 8,000, I don't know the exact numbers, but there's a very finite number of M3s, and they're all unique one-of-one mutant apes. So obviously they're valuable. And so as they get like drunk or like, used, the mutant gets revealed and the one-of-one art is revealed, and everyone gets to see, not just the owner, the whole community, what this one-of-one is. And basically, I think the team came out and basically alluded to, or straight up said, what all the remaining ones were. So they take the traits from the original Bored Ape. So like there's trippy fur, there's gold, there's all the different types of apes have a mutant variety, and the gold is like the most valuable type of Bored Ape, and so the gold mutant hasn't been revealed yet, and so we're down to 3. Well, we were down to 3, and then yesterday one of them got revealed. It was a trippy fur one, which is the second most valuable type in the ecosystem, and then now there's 2 left, and the last 2 are either going to be a cheetah or gold fur ape. And so it's sort of like this one individual, I think his name is Deepak, he owns one of them, and he's he has been splashing around a lot of money over the last couple of months on buying, like he bought that I think he bought the Alien Punk for 8,000
8,000 ETH. Yeah,
which is insane. So yeah, and then he's been talking on Twitter about wanting to get in touch with the person who has this listing for 4,200 ETH. And I think someone saw his wallet yesterday and he topped it up with like just over 4,200 ETH. So he's ready to pay that amount potentially. And if he does, he will have both. And basically
guaranteeing him the gold.
Guaranteeing him the gold, yeah. So the gold one is basically going to be the most valuable NFT in the entire Bored Ape ecosystem, which is arguably the most valuable NFT project. And, what is the value? Personally, I think 4,200 ETH is somewhat cheap for that, considering an Alien Punk, of which there's, how many are there? 9 or something? Went for 8,000 ETH. This is, Bored Ape floor is higher than Punk floor, and it seems to be the trajectory is going up. It's also crazy though, like just the amount of money people are paying for these JPEGs.
Well, I had Supermassive on the show last week, and we talked about the 8,000 ETH sale, and he had sort of an interesting perspective on it. So Deepak, who is the one that is who we're talking about here, who's the CEO of Chain. So Deepak had written a post, and I'm going to get some of the details here wrong, but it was essentially like, rules for marketing, rules for making it in Web3. It was, something along those lines where, and the piece here that's relevant is like needing to stand out and make a splash. There's so much happening in this ecosystem all the time that you really need to stand out. So he's the CEO of a protocol, and to be honest, like I know Chain Protocol because he bought a Punk for 8,000 ETH, because he spent 8,000 ETH. And so, I see that a lot of this, like I think he very much views this as a marketing play for himself and his companies and his projects. And I understand that, Supermassive was sort of cynical on it, also for, I think, valid reasons, being like, this is the stuff that kind of gives the space a bad rap at times, right? When you're really flashy and showy and like, conspicuous consumption-y, and everyone in the mainstream looks at this and is like, this is disgusting. Just like people throwing around just crazy amounts of money on this stuff in a intentionally splashy way. But look, I mean, that's where we are, and that's everything. It's not like that's only
humanity.
an NFT. Yeah, yachts are, there's these mega yachts that are wildly splashy and over the top and completely unnecessary. Like, this is not unique to this space. So, but yeah, I think this is this is definitely part marketing for him, as well as I'm
I
sure
think so.
a certain
And it's
amount of
working.
investing
Like,
and speculating. Oh, it's working. Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about him right now.
I've talked about him 2 weeks in a row on this show.
There you go. Yeah.
Hats off to you, Deepak. Interesting. Well, and then in continuing the thread of blue chips, I think people consider a Cool Cat's a blue chip, right? But there's sort of been this ongoing like frustration, you could call it, with the Cool Pets situation, which seemed to have been just sort of like expectations were poorly managed by that team in terms of timeframes and et cetera. What's sort of the latest with all of that?
Yeah, I'm not 100% on the absolute latest, but basically over the last couple of weeks, I mean, they launched basically 1st of February is when, that's when the sale was meant to be. It was meant to be 28th of January, and then they delayed it to the 1st of February. And then sort of everyone was excited for it. It was a lot of build up. They're like, hey, we're going to get our cool pet eggs. We're going to hatch them. We're going to have our pets. We're going to play this game. It's on Polygon. It's, play to earn. It's fun. It's like nostalgic, reminds us of Pokemon, all that kind of stuff. And then it was like technical issue after technical issue. They had to delay the launch, open it up, stop it, delay it. And then finally, I think the launch ended, but then no one could play the game. And then delays and technical issues. And it's just sort of, for a team that is as blue chippy as the Cool Cats, and that had, up until now, basically had a clean record. They had done everything excellently, no real dramas, no real tech issues. To have such significant tech issues, a lot of people are like having pause for concern, and there's a lot of FUD around there. I'm a holder. I've held them basically since the beginning, very shortly after. I'm not particularly worried because I believe in the team. I think they're great and they're very smart and clever. And it's unfortunate that this is happening, of course. I wonder how much of it is explicitly their fault in terms of bad coding. Sometimes it's just like Polygon has issues, or play to earn games and bridging, and there's all sorts of other issues that could be arising. But I think they could have probably communicated better throughout the process as well, and that's what a lot of people are unhappy about. Yeah, we haven't really seen a blue chip project face this level of like FUD, I guess is the word to call it. So it's interesting, and the floor price, I think, before the Cool Pets drop was around 15 ETH, and then it dropped to a low of 6 last night. This morning,
8 right now. Oh, this morning it actually got as low as 6.
But this was after the war news broke, everything just tanked. It came back up a bit.
I kind of want to buy. I'm like debating buying one of the pets, because they were at like a 1.5 or something, and we had talked to saying we'd buy in at like 2. You had said that, and I mean,
didn't.
yeah. Well, you have enough, right? I have none. I have no sort of exposure to the Cool Cat world, and I still remain. I agree, like long-term bullish on them. I think they have so much kind of community support behind them. Even while people are maybe frustrated by what's happening, like I don't think you're going to see the Cool Cat community like disintegrate. Mm-hmm. So I will consider it. I will continue to consider it and probably not do it, and then feel sad when it like skyrockets to 5 ETH someday. That tends to be my general pattern. It is odd. It's funny because I think, I don't know why it feels more intuitive to me that the stock market suffers under geopolitical instability than the NFT market. Like the fact that I understand. I guess people just like want to pull their money out because they just get scared, and you want to get into like conservation mode of like, I want my money on hand in case things go wrong. So it's the exact same dynamic at play, but for some reason it feels, I guess because it feels like we're in our own little world here in NFT land, that it's almost I don't know. It's funny to me that you have a connection there as well.
Yeah, it'll be really curious to see what happens over the coming weeks, just with every market, but I wouldn't be surprised if the NFT market does sort of continue to be in a little bit of a bubble and world of its own. But yeah, who knows? So
actually, we didn't do macro updates up at the top.
Yeah.
Which is of course where you usually start. I think because again, I'm sort of distracted by the Ukraine-Russia news. But one thing I wanted to ask you on the macro update piece, and I don't know if you have other thoughts, but we sort of been talking like, oh, is there this decoupling that's happened with NFTs and the crypto markets? And I think the conclusion has sort of been like, yes. but I also was curious, like, are we actually starting to see an inverse relationship, which is logical, right? Like as the price of ETH goes down, you see the NFT market
Right.
have, higher volume, more of a bull market. And then as ETH climbs, sort of, the NFT volumes at least go down. It feels like we're starting to see that, which would be a sort of a logical place to land for hopefully obvious and intuitive reasons. Like in some ways it was odd that previously they were in lockstep. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that, when ETH price is down and dropping, I think when it's in like this highly volatile state, NFTs are still a little precarious and no one really wants to jump in. But once it settles, like we saw that, it settled around 2,400 for a while, a couple of weeks ago, January. And then it settled for around 2,900, 3K for a while. And then, NFTs were still pumping once it had settled at a certain point. And I think, yes, a lower ETH price is generally going to be good for NFTs because a lot of, especially new people to the space, they frame everything in US dollars or euros or fiat, wherever they are. And if they're going to buy in, an NFT that's a 0.1 mint all of a sudden goes from $350 to $190, depending on how much ETH crashes. And that's a lot more appealing and accessible for people. And just gas as well, like gas costs. When MetaMask pops up and you see the gas amount in dollars or euros or whatever currency, when that's lower, it's a lot more palatable to say, okay, I'll spend $20 or $15 on a mint versus $55 on a mint or something like that. On the note of decoupling though, one thing I've noticed lately in terms of the whole macro market is up until say a month ago, I think the NFT market it sort of moved in unison. So like if prices were dropping, it seemed like pretty much across the board prices were dropping, and if things were pumping, pretty much universally things were pumping. Maybe like the blue chips would start and then other projects would follow, but everything would sort of work in lockstep, and that's how it worked. Now I think we're starting to see, like, I would say that the macro market is kind of a little bit bearish at the moment. The last few weeks, even prior to the war, prices were bleeding, dripping. Bored Apes went from 120, 130 ETH maybe down to like 90, and just slowly bled. Cool Cats obviously dropped a bit. A bunch of projects dropped, but there were plenty of projects that were pumping and doing really well. Mfers, NFT Worlds, two obvious examples, and then a bunch of new projects that we were joking about. We haven't even really heard of or done a lot of research on, like Threelanders and Tubby Cats and all these projects popping up and flourishing. So it's now getting to the point where it's not like the entire market is bullish or bearish. It's whether it's certain sectors like new projects or blue chips or gaming or just individual projects within there and I think that's healthy. I think that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been struck by this. Like it's always moved fast, but it somehow feels like it's moving even faster. Like trying to track, I think it was 3 weeks ago, I was talking about Creeps, which had been sort of on the top charts for weeks. What's happening with Creeps, right? Like
I have no idea. I haven't even thought of them for ages. I'm looking
totally,
them up now.
and I kind of checked because that was the example that had popped in my head. And they've declined steadily, but hey, they're still like a several ETH project. Like they're not, they didn't disappear off the face of the earth. Like that's how fast this is moving. That these projects that I was like, all right, I really need to finally cover this one. It's like it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
It feels irrelevant. I'm not actually calling it irrelevant, right? But like it feels irrelevant within a couple of weeks. So yeah, and Zeneca, some of the top volume projects, the Threelanders, Tubby Cats, Eden Horde, Cat Blocks Genesis, these like all did thousands of ETH in volume in the last 70 days. And Zeneca and I were joking, we're like, we literally know nothing about these projects.
I know nothing about almost any of them. It's so... Yeah,
it's really
so
wild, and I wonder too, to some extent, for you and I, who both sort of are generalists in this space, and sort of we have different jobs because I'm a little bit more centered on content, I think, than you make a lot of content, but I feel like you're first a degen. It's always
I still check floor prices all day, every day,
all day long. Yeah, and I've always been a little bit less that I'm almost more content first, right? And I think it does make me wonder sometimes, like people talk about this from a trading perspective, but that need to specialize a little bit. Like how can you be tracking like the metaverse fashion market at the same time you're tracking the general PFP community membership market at the same time you're tracking the gaming market at the same time you're tracking the music market? Like holy shit, like in the real world we have people who to some extent like have niches.
And it used to be like 10 months ago you could just be across all of the projects because we had 2 projects launching a week. Now we have 200 launching a day. So yeah
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. And I think gaming in particular, I mean, I see so many, PDE and otherwise, and just kind of general MMORPG, whatever those acronyms are. Like I somehow, a lot of those come across my radar, and not that I do deep due diligence, so I have no smart point to make about them, but there's so many that feel like are just emerging one after the other. Oh, that was actually a point I wanted to make on the as we were talking about the cool pets sort of saga, for lack of a better term. I interviewed Justin Kahn yesterday. That episode will be coming out next week. But he's long-term bullish on gaming and NFT gaming, and has been talking about that pretty publicly. And he was like, the reality is it takes 2 years, and you hear this from other people. It takes a long time to build like a good game like that. And you add on the, kind of, this is a new area. Like, these are not things that can be spun up quickly and done sort of at the quality that people are used to in the, call it, traditional gaming world. So he's really excited. He's like, there's a lot that's in the works right now that's going to be fantastic. But you've got these people coming from AAA game studios who are starting to build, who are the top at what they do. It's just like there is a time lag because it takes time to do this really well. So I do have a certain amount of empathy for the Cool Pets team. Not that this is the most complex game. I don't know the details of the game, but like that's a big undertaking.
It's not easy.
And so, I do have some sympathy there. Okay, well, the project, I feel like the project of the week that certainly feels unimpacted by anything else happening in the market is Invisible Friends.
Crazy project. It's been so hyped, and
they've
been building for months. So there's 5,000 of them. They did a mint list only, so there was no public sale. It was extraordinarily difficult to get on the mint list, understandably, because they have 500,000 people following them on Twitter, presumably close to that in the Discord. I know there's a ton of people in there. So the project itself, like, it's these animated walking 3D people, invisible people. So like it's like
you see the sunglasses, but it's like not on a face. And it's like their hood is pulled up over a head, but there's no face or head.
I think they look awesome. They're very, very cool.
They look great.
And they're different. They're unique. And the artist behind it is he's renowned. He's been working in 3D animated art for many, many years.
That's Marcus Magnuson.
Marcus Magnuson, yeah. And so everything's great, but it just got hyped and to oblivion, basically. And so the mint price was 0.25, and basically immediately they were selling at 10 ETH, 10 to 15 ETH. And they dropped a little bit to 8-ish, and then now they're sitting around 9 to 10 again. It's just an insane project. And actually, before the public sale went live, they had a charity auction. So he created a one-of-one gold invisible friend, and said, the winner of this auction, all the money will go to charity, and the winner will get this gold one, but also 5 tokens of the Invisible Friends collection, just airdropped, and it sold for 500 ETH. So, or 496.69, because again,
yeah, of course, it's NFTs. What is your take on, like, does it deserve this hype? Like, I feel like Azuki, and I actually sort of, at the time, was like, had I seen Azuki before it was crazy hyped, would I have understood why it was hyped? But the answer was maybe sort of yes. Like, I think at the time I said, I don't know. But the truth is, like, that website was really well done. The ERC 721A innovation was obviously, like, showed the technical savvy of the team, the entire thing.
Yeah.
And now I really like this art. I actually, like, it resonates for me probably even more than like Azuki art does to some extent. And like that, I'm like, oh, this is cool. But beyond that, like, again, why do some of these projects just kind of hit like that? Do you have a perspective on this one?
Yeah, I think it's just supply and demand and scarcity and FOMO and all sorts of stuff. So whether it deserves a price or not, it's so hard to tell, because if you really break it down, the tangible value on almost any of this is just nothing. It's very minute, and it's all just like, what are people that are willing to pay for a thing, whether it's for clout value or if they just really like the art and want it, and there's so many factors that go into consideration. I think it's unique and different, but and clearly had a lot of work put into it. And if it's if there's utility attached in the future, there could be value there, but I don't know. I think so. I have one. I minted one because I owned 4 pieces from the previous collections that gave me the mint list spot.
Mood rollers and slim hoods. So
yeah,
for
mood
folks,
rollers and
that's
slim
part
hoods.
of because this is all a part of the random
Character collective.
Random character collective, right? So they had done 2 previous drops that didn't have this kind of hype. I mean, they did well, but then and then if you owned 4 of them, that entitled you to an invisible friend.
Yeah, basically. So yeah, the Random Character Collective is this group of 3D animated artists who came together and said, they were doing things individually, and then why don't we just bring this collective together, combine our communities? Our art is somewhat similar in that style. And yeah, so I have one, and I mean, I don't want to sell it at 10 ETH, but I also don't want to buy another one at 10 ETH. It's a really, like, I have some, like, I want one. Like, I want to keep one just because it's so, again, it's really cool. And, like, I like
really cool.
the look of it. And, now we've seen, I think, a phenomenon maybe we had never seen before, where there were a lot of derivatives and copycats launching before this even launched. And people was taking this style and, like, trying to copy it and launch all sorts of fake projects and scams and stuff. And now there's another one coming up, I think Imaginary Ones, that is very similar in style, somewhat similar in style. And so we might see this era of more like animated 3D PFPs or art or style. And if that happens and becomes a big niche of the space, and Invisible Friends was like the first, I think there's value in firsts in this space. The collection size is small, like 5K versus the 10K sizes. The unique ownership distribution is really, really, really good. So everyone could only mint one. So there's like 5,000 of them and like 4,600 unique owners. I don't know. A lot of people are saying it's going to dump. I would not be surprised if it does, but I think it's, and a lot of people were comparing it to like METAVERSE and HAPE and these other projects.
I was I was actually literally, as you were saying that, I was looking up to see where HAPE is at right now in terms of floor.
HAPE's at like 2 to 3.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
If I may though, this art is way better. I hate the HAPE art, and I'm not. I feel bad because there's like real people behind that project, and I don't like, they're not a rug. They're like actually doing their best. So I don't like to be like mean, but like I really hate that art. I find the glossy sheen on the HAPEs like gross. So again, not everybody's got their own style and their own taste. This is not to be like mean to a team that's doing their best, but I like the Invisible Friend art way more.
I would agree. Like the HAPE art, I think the sort of like the trailers and the hype seem better to me than the actual output. Yeah. And I mean TBD for Invisible Friends, because currently they're all pre-revealed, so it'll depend. But based on a lot of the previews I've seen, it looks very, very cool and awesome. Everyone, well, not everyone, a lot of people seem to think that it's going to go the same way of METAVERSE and HAPE, and the floor will drop to 2, 3, 4, maybe less ETH. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, but to me it does seem different. And famous last words, I can't remember who said it. The 4 most dangerous words in investing is "this time it's different." So who knows? Yeah.
Fair. I was looking at Azuki too, because Azuki's holding strong at 10. I need to get somebody on here. Obviously it would be great to talk to the Azuki team, which you know them, but like even just like somebody who like spends all their time in that Discord, like tell me what's going on there that has made this community hold so strong. Maybe you know Zen, but I don't,
but I know someone who does. Or I know someone you can talk to if you want. Like,
put me in touch. I want to bring this I don't know if it's even alpha. I want to bring this insight to the Overpriced JPEGs audience, because it's like this big question I have, like how has this avoided the fate that so many other projects that were super hyped. It's like Azuki and Doodles. I feel like those are the two who like haven't sort of experienced kind of big dips at some point for super high projects post sort of an explosive like post reveal time.
Yeah, Doodles went up. Not Doodles. Azuki went up so quickly as well. Like
just so fast. And but did they have it? They had a slight post reveal dip. Like that was the thing with Doodles that was so weird.
Didn't.
Was like
they didn't.
They didn't either. Okay, so
I wanted to buy it. I was like, I'll wait. Most projects do, but occasionally you get the exceptional ones that don't, and it didn't. It just went up and up and up.
I guess that that I always want like things to make sense and be logical, which especially in this worlds
yeah.
you can't really expect. But like, you know, I'm just like, there must be an answer to that. There must be a way to predict in the future when that, you know,
Yeah.
when you'll have that dynamic. And of course, there isn't in all likelihood. But I'll talk to your Zuki friend, because I would like to get the perspective of somebody who's like deep in that world.
Yeah.
Axie Infinity is a game universe filled with cute, fascinating little creatures called Axies that players can collect as pets. Players aim to battle, breed, collect, raise, and build kingdoms for their Axies. There are and will be many varied gaming experiences for Axies, many of them having players compete with each other using complex strategies and tactics to attain top rankings or be rewarded with coveted resources. Others will have them complete quests, defeat bosses, and unlock in-depth storylines. There are countless unique Axies that players can collect with varying body parts and experiences. The Axie universe is a player-owned economy where the players can truly own, buy, sell, and trade the resources they earn in the game through skilled gameplay and contributions to the ecosystem. It's a digital nation where people come together globally with their Axies to play, earn, and live. Join the Axie revolution at axieinfinity.com/bankless. Polygon is Ethereum's largest and most vibrant scaling solution to date. With millions of monthly users and all of the biggest DeFi apps, the Polygon ecosystem has turned into a blossoming metropolis of DeFi activity. Transactions on Polygon are quick and cheap, allowing users the freedom to achieve their DeFi goals, all while being economically anchored to Ethereum. But Polygon isn't just the proof-of-stake sidechain. The Polygon team is building a suite of scaling solutions, including Polygon Hermes, Maiden, Nightfall, and Zero, all with different design choices in order to be optimized for all possible crypto use cases. If you're a developer who wants to build on the Polygon ecosystem, go to the link in the show notes to check out their fantastic documentation. And if you're a user who just wants to experience fast and cheap DeFi, you can bridge over your ETH or other tokens and start playing around with any of the thousands of applications that are available on Polygon.
Okay, other projects. Again, I've talked about MFers a little bit. I've kind of given my take, so would love to know yours.
I love them
they
so
continue
much.
to do well. Okay, yeah. Well, you love the CCO project.
I love CCO. I love memes. I think there's great power in memes. Yeah.
There's Satoshi.
I think,
you've got the kind of like known, respected artist piece.
Yes, yeah, that's huge. And you know, founder, and you know, he's very hands off, and it's a community doing everything. It's the art is very simplistic. It's like stick figures, but it's because of that these derivatives can thrive and people can meme. And yeah, I'm a huge fan. I had like 40 of them. I sold a few. Yeah, I sold a few when they were like 5 to 6 ETH, because you got to like. And I felt like long term, I'm really bullish on them. So I felt like a little icky, but then also got to take profits, and that's just stupid money.
That's
one
of your goals, right?
JPEGs.
You were one of your goals in the last, when things started to be a little bearish, right? Wasn't it? Or when crypto started tanking, was to take profits more.
Yeah,
they're sitting at what, like 3.5 now?
3.5 now. Yeah, they hit 6-ish.
Wow.
But then they started retracing a bit, and then again, this war news dipped it. But they've been holding strong actually around the 3 mark the last 24 hours. I love them so much.
So David Hoffman of Bankless loves MFers, and like, you know, the Bankless guys, David and Ryan, like they've historically been more on the DeFi side, right? They're a little bit less in like NFT world, but they just absolutely love MFers, and for him, it's just like this perfect level of like irreverence and kind of like, you know, middle finger with a smile. Like he just loves the vibe, the kind of I really do think it's irreverence is the right word for them. So I don't know.
To me, they seem like the crypto punks of this era. It's like, yeah.
Wow. Bold statement.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess we'll see. Bold statement after just selling some, but yeah, let's,
truly.
yeah, let's see. Yeah. But the community is just doing so many cool things with it. Like every day you scroll Twitter and I see like fun derivatives and memes and stuff people have created. And some of them are very high effort and like there's a lot of work put into them. And then, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
That we will. Okay. Final project. I feel like we want to, actually, there was one other thing I wanted to talk about before we do our final project. Final project is NFT Worlds. Are you tracking the punk sale, Withdrawn, the Sotheby's like punk?
Not really. I just saw that there were, it was like 100 punks, right? 104 or something?
Yeah. Somewhere, 102, somewhere between 100 and 104 punks.
Yeah.
It's probably 104.
And they were going up for auction, and then last minute the
seller pulled out and said, I want to hodl. And I think there's sort of questions around, is that because like they actually suddenly became super bullish, or because they felt like they weren't getting, like, because of the market, the market instability right now around, again, geopolitics, et cetera, like they felt like they weren't going to command the price they wanted. It was supposed to take place last night. I actually wanted to be there. It was in New York. There was like a Sotheby's event for the whole thing. And of course, I'm in Puerto Rico, so I couldn't go.
Yeah.
But interesting.
Yeah. My guess is that just because the market was so bearish, that they didn't want to do it. And it would be so bad for the overall market and the punk market if it sold for like 8 million or something.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Okay. Final project, NFT Worlds.
Yeah.
I might give kind of an overview here just of what this sort of is for anybody who hasn't been tracking it. And then, I don't know, I want to hear your thoughts. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds good.
So, from my perspective, this is this like, metaverse, call it, right? That has sort of emerged and like, at least temporarily, like overtaken, to some extent, Sandbox, Decentraland, like these platforms that feel like they've been building for much longer. I could be skewed, and sort of that's just my perception of how I sort of became aware of this whole thing. But the highlight here, the important piece of this is it's a metaverse whose base layer is Minecraft, right? It's like the Minecraft world. Minecraft being, I guess, the most popular game of all time, I think, or the best-selling game of all time.
Yeah.
But it's also an open source world, so you can build on the Minecraft ecosystem and the Minecraft, game. And so some folks have pulled from that open source to build these Minecraft worlds in sort of a metaverse format. So they're selling like land in their metaverse, like any others, that's of the Minecraft look and feel. And they have a governance token, World, WRLD, that is, their equivalent of sand or mana. That's their, governance token. And my understanding is like their argument, the pro argument here, of course, is like, okay, you have a lower barrier to entry to participating in a Minecraft metaverse because you have this global community of people that have already built on it and understand it and, love it. On the other hand, that's perhaps your downside too, which is, again, you're pulling from something that is open source that anybody else could come along and copy. And so, how do you maintain your advantage in that scenario? That's my understanding of where we are and what's going on. What's your take on all this?
Yeah, that again, that's basically it. And so like the worlds are all Minecraft worlds. I think the comparison to like Sandbox, Decentraland, and these other metaverses, it's interesting because for starters, there's only 10,000 NFT worlds. Compare that to Sandbox, there's, I don't know, 200,000-300,000. I don't know how many plots.
There's 166,000, right, for Sandbox.
Yeah.
166,000, yeah.
So way more plots, and also the plots are way smaller in Sandbox and elsewhere.
Smaller. So
one NFT world is much larger than every Sandbox plot combined. It's just like an enormous world, which is it's just such a fun or like just crazy thing to think about. Like this is all just digital land, digital assets. Like anyone can make it infinite if they wanted. Like we're all placing these arbitrary restrictions on the sizes of these things. And so, NFT Worlds just came along and said, all right, we'll do a Minecraft world, be enormous. People can build whatever they want. The infrastructure is very easy because anyone familiar with Minecraft can build on it. And we'll integrate it with Web3. So then they've made it so that people can bring assets into the world, like Web3 NFTs. And then the world token is like this native currency. I think they've set it up now. So there's a shop in the game where you can buy and sell in-game assets with World without paying gas, and it's just like this really cool function and feature it's just a lot of immediate utility. And so I mean, they've got plans and they seem to be executing well on them. It is a lower barrier to entry, both from a technical point of view, because a lot of people know how to build in Minecraft, but also financially speaking. So like obviously the worlds, they were free to mint as well. That's another thing. There was a bit of a gas
war. And now
war.
it's like 16 ETH, I think.
No, it's come down a lot. It's like 10 or 11.
Oh, okay.
It hit, I think 17 or 18 and then dropped to like 10 or 11. But so obviously it's not cheap anymore, but what you can do is if you have a world, you can subdivide it, you can rent out parts of it, and either yeah, so someone who wants to build on your world can take like a tiny part of it, because again, these worlds are enormous. And what we're noticing is a lot of projects themselves are buying worlds, because, you know, instead of buying 3 or 4 sandbox plots, you could buy an NFT world and build more quickly on it and integrate more easily on it, I guess, and have it more usable. And so I think that's been pushing the price up a lot. It's where like projects themselves are buying, because obviously most projects that are successful have large treasuries and can afford 10, 15, 20 ETH for a plot or two. Yeah, I don't really know
Do you
what the
own royalty
medium, long term.
tokens?
Yes, I minted a bunch and I still have 5. And so the way they
Shaking
do
my head at
the
you.
yeah
You have everything.
the way I yeah I have too many NFTs. So you got like an airdrop of world token in January, I think, and then there's another one coming up sometime soon. And
yeah,
then
I think it was late December was the first, and now
First
late
one, yeah.
February. So the next
And
week
then I
or
think
so, there'll
you'll-
be another airdrop.
Yeah, and then I think you'll be able to stake your worlds and just generate more world token as time goes on. And I think I was listening to someone, I don't know if this is official or not, I might be spreading bad information, but I think what I remember hearing was that the way they're going to structure it is so like to incentivize people to build really good things on their worlds, the worlds that have the most people coming to them, so like the best games and stuff like that, they will get some allocation of world token from like the treasury or something. So there is incentive to build great things and have people visit your worlds as well.
I know 50% of their world token allocation is rewards. Now, whether that's like quest, rewards
Yeah.
or for people building on it, I'm not sure. But that, again, do your own research.
Hefty
I'm not
chunk.
sure. We may
Yeah.
be spreading false information, but yeah, it's a significant chunk of world tokens are reserved for like a reward system for people in their ecosystem.
Yeah.
So, well, awesome. I'm intrigued for sure.
Yeah.
And I think, this will be a battle we'll be tracking for literally a decade or
It's
more.
so
I
cool.
think,
We're going to
of-
see so
of
many
where things
more
land.
pop up.
When you have
was talking to
Sandbox
someone-
Alpha, beta, coming out, it's supposed to be coming out this year because they did the alpha,
hopefully, yeah.
bit, and
Yeah.
then we're supposed to be
And
getting
people
round
loved it.
2, I think.
Everyone
Yeah.
sort of had rave reviews. So I'm sure Sandbox is going to be massive as well. It's got so many collabs with projects and people have been building there for a long time. So it's hard to imagine Sandbox not being absolutely enormous and one of the main metaverses.
Agreed. Now, with the caveat that I have heard from somebody recently who has some Sandbox land and is sort of part of like a broader brand, call it. They've had some frustrations working with Sandbox in terms of
Interesting.
feeling like there was some disorganization and some sort of like just lack of awareness around sort of them and their. I don't know. I don't want to say too much.
Yeah.
And certainly don't want to put anyone on blast, but all these projects, it's tough. You're managing huge ecosystems, a ton of hype, money, etc. So I'm also, I would say, bullish on the Sandbox, but I will say I've heard people who are working closely there, some frustrations.
Yeah. I heard someone talking about a metaverse project the other day where it's just like infinite plots. It's just like, there's anyone who wants to build can find, which in one sense makes a lot of sense for the digital world. Like, why are we arbitrarily placing, there's only this many plots in the world, but yeah. I don't know where we end up. I think we'll have a mixture of a bunch of different metaverses that all have different niches and use cases. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also going to be like an elite and a status thing, like the real world is. Like going to Soho House means something to some people and not everyone can go. And so you'll have a similar dynamic happening here where certain world, we'll want to congregate in certain worlds based on what we think it signals about who we are and getting to be there, et cetera, et cetera. Human nature cannot be changed fundamentally by technology. The problems that exist because of fundamental human nature will persist.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Any final updates, thoughts, things you're grappling with these past couple of weeks?
I felt for a couple of weeks that the whole market is in this like precarious state. The NFT market.
That's the word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It
like on a
feels
knife's
precarious.
edge. It feels frothy. It feels like there's a lot of projects, a lot of derivatives and scams it's just like a minefield to sort through and wade through. I still feel like that right now, and it's just, dialed up to 100 with the war breaking out yesterday, obviously. Just a reminder to be mindful of, like, obviously perspective of everything, but also it's like to take profits and to make sure that you're not in a position where you're over leveraged on NFTs, you're too reliable on NFTs or even crypto in general, because it's all risky and volatile. And it's very easy to find yourself in a position without really intending to have like an inordinate percentage of your portfolio in NFTs just because you bought them and then they go up 50x. Now all of a sudden you have these NFTs that are worth so much. And if they tank a lot, you'll be really upset. So just take profits
Yeah. Well, and also it's, I've spoken about this, right? It's hard because there are so many new projects coming all the time that you want to buy into. Like the stock market doesn't work like that, like I have my recurring buys on some like some index funds that give me kind of broad coverage. And I'm not like, I'm not tracking every new IPO.
Yeah.
And constantly like FOMOing, wanting to like buy into that, where it's like kind of sucking up increasingly like what you have, and but NFTs have that quality where like you've bought in, you don't want to sell the projects you're already in, but then there are new projects coming out that you want to buy into, so it can very quickly and insidiously become something where you do have sort of too much locked up there. So take profits.
Be careful.
Absolutely. All right, Seneca, great chatting with you as always. I will see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you to everyone who listened, to the team over at Bankless who make this possible, our sponsors, and just sending lots of love out into the world in this scary and tumultuous time.
Thank you.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, head over to Bankless HQ right now to develop your crypto investing skills and learn how to free yourself from banks and gain your financial independence. We recommend joining our daily newsletter, podcast, and community as a Bankless Premium subscriber to get the most out of your Bankless experience. You'll get access to our market analysis, our alpha leaks, and exclusive content, and even the Bankless token for airdrops, raffles, and unlocks. If you're interested in crypto, the Bankless community is where you want to be. Click the link in the description to become a Bankless Premium subscriber today. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for in-depth interviews with industry leaders, Ask Me Anythings, and weekly roll-ups where we summarize the week in crypto and other fantastic content. Thanks everyone for watching and being on the journey as we build out the Bankless Nation.